to the SaWGuy podcast.
Like scary movies. What's your favorite scary movie?
Here's Johnny.
We'll tear your soul apart.
The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
Game over, man. Game over.
What do you want?
I want to hear you scream. Drop the front time, bitch!
Welcome to the SaWGuy podcast. As always, I'm the SaWGuy, and I'm bringing you episode 8, another classic that I've been requested. Well, not that I requested, but other people have requested me to do. And today we're going to do it on foreign horror. I'm sure you guys knew what it all was. I mean, I gave the hint out, right? But, you know, I wanted to do foreign horror as well because a lot of people don't really know about a lot of good foreign horror films that have been out. There's some good ones, some crazy ones, some really intense ones. A lot of stuff, I believe, has impacted, like, American horror films. And obviously, most of them have been remade. Shocker there, right? You know? But anyways, we're going to talk about foreign horror films and give you my take on it. And then, you know, kind of recommend some ones for you guys to see what you think, you know? Some of you may have seen them. Some of you haven't seen them. But anyways, let's get started with it, right? So we're going to talk about what makes a foreign horror film special. What makes it so different, so unique? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Foreign films, I didn't like at first because I'm not a type of person that wants to read a freaking movie. I want to actually watch it, you know? So that was the big turnoff for me when I started watching them at first. Because it's like, okay, you had the movie up here, but then you have the subtitles down here. And it's like, okay. So be aware if you do watch a horror film and you don't understand the language, you're going to have to watch like 2 or 3 times. You know, the first time you watch it, you're going to have to read it and all that. But there's some good ones out there, like really blew me away. And another thing about foreign horror films is the fact that a lot of the movies, they're out there, but it's all based on cultural impact. You know what I'm saying? So, like Japanese films, they're going to have a lot of slasher films. Well, they got a handful, but I mean, they're probably got a lot more than what I'm thinking. But their slasher films, they go over the top. They do lots of blood, lots of gore, a lot of CGI, you know. They're not really big on practical effects. I mean, some of them are. But a lot of it has to deal with spiritual stuff. You know, you can look down the list. The Ring. What was the other one? I'm trying to think. One Missed Call. That was another old one that I watched. Yeah, The Grudge. I mean, those are just a few of the spirit ones. A lot of the slasher ones, like Itchy the Killer, one of my other favorites. There's also Suicide Club, Battle Royale, and, you know, it's pretty cool how the Japanese style does it. I was watching a few of them, and I honestly think they do more of the manga style, you know, or more of an anime style, I guess. But when I was watching Itchy the Killer, that's my go-to movie if I talk about foreign horror, that one, right off the bat. But anyways, with Itchy the Killer, I liked because it was a different, unique story, but it pushed the boundaries. It was basically about this kid who got off on seeing people get hurt and things like that, and then he was crossed between, like, gang war and stuff, and you know, there was over-the-top kills and cheesy gore, but it didn't, like, disappoint on the blood. It really didn't. But it was just kind of odd and weird, like, how they did it, because they actually showed scenes of him, like, you know, jizzing everywhere. And I was just like, what the fuck is this, you know? But after you see it the first time, that's your first expression. After you see it, like, 2 or 3 times, and you kind of like, oh, okay, that's the whole story. He's caught in the middle in this gang war and everything. And it was a really good movie. My take on it was, like... They try to make it kind of like, if you called it a movie with Joker as a gangster, that'd be your movie, and somebody caught in the middle of that, you know? I mean, I could see America remaking that, you know? If they do, put my name in the credits, you know, because I was the first one that came up with that. Also, too, other films that I liked that were foreign horror films, one of my top favorite ones, nothing ever competes it, is I Saw the Devil. And the reason why I Saw the Devil is my top one is because that was actually the first real foreign horror film that I got into. It came up a lot on Netflix and it was on there forever. And then Hulu got it. And I kept seeing the promotional picture, you know, when you see it, when you're scrolling through. And I figured, okay, might as well give this a shot. Fuck it, why not, right? Within the first 5 minutes of that movie, I take off the mask and show you my expression, but then I wouldn't be the SaWGuy. But my mouth just hit the ground like, holy shit, this is like intense. And throughout the whole movie, the movie is basically about a good cop and versus like the bad guy. The bad guy kills his wife. The cop finds out who he is, and they play this cat and mouse game. He beats the shit out of him, leaves him out there, beats the shit out of him again, throws him out there. Then the killer catches on and figures out, oh, okay, I know who this guy is. And he goes and basically kills his father-in-law, kills his sister-in-law. I don't think he killed his brother, or not his brother, his father-in-law. I think he just beat the shit out of him to the point where he's close to death. Then the movie takes a turn where, you know, he kidnaps him, puts him in a jigsaw-like style trap, and then basically, you know, hears the fact that his family goes in and sees him, and then the trap goes off. And it was just an intense movie. And believe it or not, like, for a foreign horror film, if that's your first one that you ever see, it's called I Saw the Devil. That's a really good one. That's actually a Korean film. That blew me away. I was like, holy shit, Korea, they did something pretty good on that one, you know? But then you have other nations, like the UK and New Zealand. They're very similar, their styles. Their styles, what they do, they'll do a lot of gore, they'll do a lot of intense, but they do a lot of that slapstick comedy in there. And everybody knows I'm not a horror comedy guy. You know, but if you look at movies like Brain Dead, or what do they call it now, Dead Alive, where they imported it from New Zealand and brought it into America, they call it Dead Alive. But it's kind of corny. I mean, it has zombies, it's got a lot of blood, it's got a lot of gore. I think it still holds the world record of the most blood used in a horror film. And it's considered more horror than it is comedy. But it's got a lot of that slapstick comedy in there. I mean, you'll see that between UK films and New Zealand films. So it's like, if you like that taste in it, I mean, you know, more power to you, but I'm not really into that, so I'm like, But then you have other films, and like the Babadook. Babadook was a big thing about 2 years ago, and that's actually from Australia. It's not subtitled, but they speak English, but it's still considered a foreign film, and that had to do with like a spirit, like coming out of a book and chasing after this woman who lost her husband, and she's going through a lot, and it was actually pretty cool. It was different, and for what it was for Australia, I tried doing my research. I couldn't find any well-known Australian horror films. If I'm wrong, if you guys know a good one, put it in the comments so that way I could check it out, you know, because I'm always down to check them out. But the Babadook wasn't too bad. I mean, if you believe the hype in it and then you see the ending like, oh, that was it, you know, it's kind of like that because it's more of a supernatural film, which is okay if you're really into that, you know. Another one that I thought was pretty interesting, and it was all over on Netflix. I don't know if on Hulu, but it was called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And that one was a little different for me. I understood it right off the bat because the language that they were speaking was Farsi, and I understand a little bit of it, but I had to watch it a few times to read the subtitles. But basically, it goes off that folktale culture in the Iranian culture that you never trust anybody who's walking home alone at night kind of deal thing. And then the fact that they made the main character as a girl just kind of like makes it a little bit more creepy. It's more of a cultural stance, and that's what's unique about all these horror films. They tie a lot of their cultural stuff in there, and you never really think about it. You know, like here in America, they bestow upon you that you should be afraid of the dark. You should be afraid of this. You should be afraid of that. Well, in other countries, they have something similar like that. You know, they're more afraid of ghosts. They're more afraid of not going into the afterlife like in Japan. They have a lot of different cultural things, but what makes it good is that you have all these different varieties. It's like Baskin Robbins. You have your 31 flavors here, you know? That's what I noticed out of all these films. And some of them, they're really good, but some of them, they're just like, and then y'all know where I'm going with this one. And then you have odd ones that just really mindfuck you. Now, those ones that can really mindfuck you, they're really good. And y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a suburban film. That one came out of Eastern Europe from the country Suburbia. But that one was like, whoa, that was a big mindfuck. You know, just the fact of, you know, you have an actor coming back, a porno actor, I should say, coming back into the movie. And basically, he's, you know, contracted to make these snuff films. Well, if you don't know what snuff films are like underground, like sexual movies where they kill people and shit. But anyways, he doesn't know that. The story goes is that, you know, the first scene, you know, they show, like, very graphic that this woman's performing fellatio, then she bites him, and then, you know, the guy's telling him, hey, just punch her. And I'm like, that alone was just like, what the fuck is that? You know, it shocks you. That's what that whole movie was based about. It was pushing the edge of the shock value. And boy, did it shock. I'm not gonna say how many times I've seen it, but the few times that I have, like it's always messed with me. You know, it really does, because you never think like a film could be like that, but that was really intense. So you got that one, that was Eastern Europe. That's what I already said. And then you have films like Cannibal Holocaust, which is actually an Italian film, but they talk in English. And with that one, everybody knows about Cannibal Holocaust. If you haven't, look it up. You'll see it's brutal. But what they did in that film, it was basically, they filmed it, some in Manhattan and then some in South America. And it's basically like The Green Inferno. The Green Inferno was just a remake of it. But what they did is that they, it was like I think it was one of the first POV, you know, point of view, where they show the cameras moving. But anyways, it was about a bunch of these film crew kids. They go into this indigenous tribe. They go and they record this tribe, how they're doing things, but then they show that they're cannibals, that they're crazy. They fucking kill their own people and do crazy shit. But in the same film, they show that they kill animals and they cook them and eat them. And there's this really intense scene where they actually show like how they do it and everything. And that was partly one of the reasons why I got banned, because it was, you know, this is late 70s when this film came out, so a lot of people were pissed. I think it's still banned in some countries though, but I think now they have a different version of it where it's animal cruelty free, which is cool, you know. I'm not against that. But it was just like, that movie was really intense. The effects were great, you know, the props, the practical effects, and everything that they did on it. But that movie just really pushed the boundaries of it. Like, you know, here's like your normal horror movie, and then here's like Cannibal Holocaust, and then Suburban Film is like right there. You know, that's what's intense about these foreign films, is because they have no filter. You know, different countries, they have different filters. So what we think is offensive here is not offensive over there, and they're just gonna go ape shit with it. You know, and it's intense. Some films were. You know, I also wrote down like a list of everything. Well, another one that really got me was Martyrs. Martyrs was actually a French film, and the easiest way to describe it, it's about this chick. She gets tortured by this family. She breaks away. She gets older, and her and her friend, you know, they come up with a plan to go after this family that tortured her, and it's just this mindfuck movie, you know, where it shows a lot of intense, like, gore, killings. You know, there's a scene where she knocks on the door, and, you know, this old guy, I can't remember, you know, because I've seen it a few times, but I can't translate the language, you know. Language barrier. But anyways, he opens the door. She has a double-barrel shotgun, and boom! Like, what the fuck? You know, and that just, whoa, you know. The way how they did it is just so intense, just raw, like, smacks you in the face. So, like, that one right there was really good, like, story-wise. I could see them, well, they already remade it, but it's not as intense as, you know, the foreign one. But I know, like, when you see it, it's, I can't describe it in person. If I could, I would show you clips, but I know, like, YouTube, they block a lot of that shit because it's intense, you know, and I understand. But if you ever get a chance to, I Saw the Devil, Itchy the Killer. What was another one that I had mentioned? Obviously, a Suburban Film, which I wouldn't recommend seeing that more than once or twice, because that one's really intense. You got Martyrs. You got the original Grudge, which, you know, it's scary. It's scary to what you believe, you know, as I said in the Supernatural episode. Babadook, they still probably had that on there. Another good one, like I said, was A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. That's the one that's in Farsi. It's not too intense. I mean, it's more of a thriller-based suspense. Then you also have another one that I've talked about in the Slasher episode, was High Tension. High Tension was good, and it's a French film. And basically, it's about this chick who has, like, dual personalities, becomes this different person, starts killing people. Then people don't believe her because she's like, no, this person, he's coming after me. He's trying to kill me. At the end, spoiler alert, you find the twist that it ends up being her the whole time. But the way they did that film was just intense. I mean, the gore scenes, the fact that she had a fucking handheld chainsaw, one of the high-powered ones. It was really cool how they did it. You know, and that's the thing with foreign films, is that you got to go in thinking, you know, anything is expected in a foreign horror film. It really is, you know. And I know I'm probably missing a lot because there's a lot more. I know someone's going to say in the comment, well, what about Fulci? What about Argento? I'm getting to that. Don't worry. Dario Argento, he did a lot of other good ones. He did Suspiria. A lot of people give him more credit for the movie Demons. I'm pretty sure you saw my little teaser for Demons. Demons was another good one of mine. I'll get to that in a second. And then you also have Lou Fulci. Fulci was the one who did more of like the zombie films. He did a lot more than just like zombie films. He broke away from horror, and he did that style of Western or spaghetti Western. It's basically like Italian's version of like a cheesy Western film, but that's not for here. You know, we're talking about horror films. But anyways, back to Argento. Argento, he did Suspiria, which was a little odd out there. I mean, it's when you watch that movie, Italian films, they're long and drawn out. Italian films, they like to build and build and build suspense, and then they shock you with some things, and then they'll throw like a couple jump scares here and there, and you can start seeing the different styles between it. But anyways, with Argento, he did really good on Suspiria, and later on, like towards his other films, like as he got towards the late 80s, early 90s, he started falling off. But he made a gem, or I wouldn't say he made it, but he produced it. He did a lot of the dirt work for it, you know? He did Demons. And Demons was another good one that I thought was, like, it's underrated. Some people have heard about it. Most of us horror fans know about it for sure. But if you haven't, look it up, Demons. And then they had a sequel, Demons 2. I don't know if he worked on that one. But it carries over to the same story at the end of the first one. But anyways, the story goes, it follows, it's kind of like Quentin Tarantino style. It follows like a bunch of different people in the beginning. You find out that this pimp, or this dude, he has like 2 chicks. They go and they to this movie theater, and before they went, they go to this museum and they see this silver mask. Well, this chick, she gets cut from it and thinks nothing of it. Then later on, as they're watching a horror film, watching a horror film and a horror movie, right? She turns into like a zombie-like creature. And she basically, you know, and it's basically falls into the zombie guidelines that they bite you or scratch you or whatever. Then you turn into a zombie. So basically, it turned into everybody in the movie theater became a zombie, and then they were just trying to fight for survival. And it's one of those old school movie theaters where you have the bottom, then you have the opera top row, you know. And it was pretty good. I mean, it was different. It was basically like your first real input of like zombies in the 80s. Like that really kind of put it out there. I'm not trying to knock on George Romero or anything. I know they used the term zombies in the 30s, but this was really one of those ones that kind of pushed the edge, gave them like the green blood, like the fucked up face, how they transformed, you know. And it was pretty cool how they did it. And the whole story goes is that they're trying to escape out of this movie theater. And eventually they escape, but one of them, you know, there's still one zombie in there, and then it leaves it open for a sequel. And it basically said, okay, is it done? Is it not done? And then, you know, the sequel came out. I haven't seen the sequel, not by choice, honestly. You know, it's if I see it on Netflix, okay. If I see it on Hulu, okay. You know, I think I've seen it maybe once or twice, I believe, like a long time ago. I forget a lot, you know. But that was another good one. That really was. And then when you go back to Fulci, he's really famous for zombies. Everyone's seen that main zombie picture where it shows a zombie and the worm coming out of the eye and shit. Well, a lot of people don't realize, we know as horror fans, but a lot of people don't realize that movie's actually called Zombie 2. And the reason being is because when George Romero did Dawn of the Dead, that was supposed to be the first one, and then Italy said, all right, fuck it, let's go and do our own thing with it, and they basically did. So they did a spin-off from Dawn of the Dead, and they basically turned it into Zombie 2. But Zombie 2 stands alone on its own, you know? But, so they call it Zombie 2, Zombie, it's whatever you like to call it, you know? It's a zombie film. But anyways, it's basically like the premise of the video game Dead Island. They go to this island, there's an outbreak, they don't know what the virus is, and eventually people start turning into zombies. And then they have that really intense scene where the chick, she's like trying to hide from one of the zombies. She's locked in those closets with those little shutters. Well, anyways, they break through, and one of the shutters is sticking out. It grabs her, and it pulls her face all the way into the eye, and it pulls the eyeball out. Now, that was really fucking intense. That's iconic, you know? It was iconic because it was, you know, during the late 80s, well, 80s to late 80s, you had that whole trend of, like, these movies are bad, blah, blah, blah. They call them video nasties, all that shit. But anyways, that movie was really good on its own because of the fact that it pushed the zombie genre a little bit, you know? And that's from little country of Italy. They pushed the genre a little bit. They pushed the gore. And what sucked about the movie, because I've seen it a few times, is that it's a lot of long drawn out. Like, it's a lot of build up, but every Italian film is like that. And you'll find that out with different horror films. Korean films, like I Saw the Devil, That movie's close to about 3 hours. It's a little drawn out, but it's worth it for, you know, for the payoff on it, because it excites you. Other movies, you know, like, I would say One Missed Call. I mean, there's a lot of little drawn out parts, but then it builds up to actual good scenes, you know, death scenes, everything like that, you know. So, I mean, it makes it interesting. It really does. But what I noticed from doing the research on this episode was that every horror film, can't even talk, every foreign film, they all have their own little style of things, you know. And it's not, I don't think it's by the director. I don't think it's by the story. I don't think it's even by the actors. I think it's just because it's pure cultural stance. And what's cool about that is that, you know, if it becomes popular, it becomes iconic. You know, you got Zombie, Itch the Killer, Babadook. I wouldn't say it's iconic yet. Another one that was pretty big that became iconic recently was Human Centipede. I don't. Everybody knows about that. I mean, when that movie came out, everyone was tripping about it. They made fun of it on South Park, all this other shit, you know. But Human Centipede, it was a German film, and basically what it was about this mad German scientist. He thought he can connect, you know, 3 people ass to mouth, just sewing them, and basically built like his own human centipede, which is the name of the movie. And it was one of those movies that just, it stuck out a lot. Like, it wasn't released in America, I don't think. Maybe at a film festival or something. But I know it wasn't like nationwide. And then they put it on Netflix, and then everybody heard about that shit. You know? So Human Centipede was a little different. And the style of German films, they're more related to French. They do a little bit of build-up, and then they show you, then a little bit of build-up. And they keep it, they don't have it long and drawn out. Like, the movies aren't like 2-3 hours long. They're like maybe 90 minutes. Normal movie, you know? And they do it pretty good. But Human Centipede was iconic because it was something odd, something different. And that's my point that I'm making with these foreign horror films. Some of these, they're so good that they become icons. And a lot of them get remade, like a lot of the Japanese films. You got Battle Royale. They basically remade that into, what the hell is that movie? Hunger Games. I was trying to remember. I don't watch anything other than horror films. But they basically remade that movie into Hunger Games. Now you look at The Ring. That was remade. You had The Grudge. One Missed Call. I know there's rumors talking about I Saw the Devil, but those rumors have been kind of going around for a while. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, I wouldn't say that's horror, but that was another big foreign film that got really huge, and then they remade it, and then the American version sucked. Another one just popped in my head right now. I don't have it on my notes, but it just popped in my head. Let the Right One In. I don't know if you all remember that one. That was about the vampire girl, Eli. She comes in and moves next door to this kid, and, you know, they have kind of like this little chemistry, but then she has, you know, an older guy that kind of comes off as her dad. Something happens with that, and then it ends up being her alone. Well, you find out later in the story that was actually her boyfriend. She's a vampire, so vampires don't age. So it follows like all the vampire rules. But it was like, that movie came out at the same time as Twilight, so it was basically like a vampire love story, but like it was more fucked up. It was more true to life. It wasn't like the sparkling shit that they have now. But but anyways, when they did that, the foreign film was really good. Like, that's standalone on its own. And then when they released it in America, obviously they messed up a little bit on the translation. That was back in the day. But it got big in America, so they figured, okay, they'll remake it. They remade it, and for a remake, for American-made remake, that was actually pretty good how they did it. The one with Chloe Martz, the girl who was It Girl from Kick-Ass, they redid it with her, and that movie was really good. And it's, for the way they translate it from foreign to American, yeah, there's a little bit of differences here and there, but if they do it right, it actually is really iconic. There's some other ones, too, that have been fucked up before when they remade it, like Old Boy. Old Boy was another good one. It's more action, horrific kind of thing, and Old Boy was good, like the original Japanese, I think it was Japanese. Yeah, it's Japanese. I think it's Japanese. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, because, you know, I might have fucked that up. But anyways, they remade it in 2004, and when they remade it, they did Josh Brolin as the main guy, Elizabeth Olsen, and Spike Lee did it. And he tried to do it shot-for-shot remake. And when you translate that from foreign culture to American culture, it didn't mesh well. It really didn't. You know, I mean, it worked for the foreign horror movie because we all know that's their cultural beliefs and things like that. When you try to bring it here in America, it's like, what the fuck? It's like, you know, couple that with, you know, the fact that they kind of try to do it like, they try to make it look like it was low budget like the original. But that's my opinion. If you guys like the remake, hey, go ahead. You know, more power to you, you know. But anyways, what I also want to get a point across too, a lot of these films, you have to have an acquired taste for horror films. So if you like a lot of blood, guts, and gore like I do, you know, Cannibal Holocaust doesn't affect me. Suburban Film did, but it's more of a mind fuck kind of deal thing. But if you like those films, I mean, those, like, if you have an acquired taste, those films won't really mess with you. You know, if you like a lot of spiritual films, like Japanese horror films would probably be your way to go. Maybe even Australia. Some European ones, they kind of delve with, like, true life scary. But there has been some other ones. There was this werewolf one that I saw one time where they're all on a train and there's a bunch of werewolves coming out. I can't remember the name, but if you remember the name, put it in the comments, because I really want to see that movie. It's something in the train in London or whatever. But that was another good one. I think that was actually a UK movie too, or it might have been Ireland. One of those, you know. But it was really good. But my point being on foreign horror films, have an open mind with it. Don't be closed-minded and shallow like I was, you know. I didn't start watching foreign horror films until probably like 6 or 7 years ago. And when I started watching them, it just like blew my fucking mind. It still does to this day for some films. I haven't catched any of the newer ones, but if I see any good newer ones, I'll let you guys know on Twitter, on my Facebook page. I might even, you know, throw it out on my horror news update, let you guys know if it's coming out, if it's good. But a lot of them were pretty... Doing this episode, like, it made me appreciate more of how these foreign films are, because they do push the envelope. You know, if a lot of these didn't push the envelope, we wouldn't have horror movies how they're made today to kind of follow that scheme, you know? A lot of things are copycatted, but you got to give a lot of props to the foreign films, because they really do push it. You know, if you didn't have foreign horror films, you wouldn't have films how they are today. Bottom line. I'm going to say that right off the bat. But, you know, what's also cool, too, is that I wouldn't say that I would put them on top of my favorite list, but it's a different style, like a different subgenre. I wouldn't classify it as like a slasher or a ghost. I know I did for this episode, but I'm giving you guys, you know, what it's about, so that way you're not disappointed when you see it. But anyways, I wouldn't classify it as that. Like, I would classify any film that's a horror film that isn't made in America, or that's a foreign film, has subtitles, automatically I consider it foreign. And I always go in there with an open mind. Like, okay, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. There has been some disappointments. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to lie about that. But a lot of them, like 90% of them, are really good, you know? And if there's issues trying to find them, I know video, like DVDs, Blu-rays, it's kind of dying off a little bit here and there, like video stores. But I know they always put a lot of them on Shudder. And I want to say Hulu, they have a lot more options, but Hulu, they always change it up. Netflix, from time to time, they'll throw you a bone. I know Amazon Prime, I was looking through that. I don't have Prime Video, but looking through the list, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty interesting. You know, so Prime has a lot of good ones, if you're really into that. You know, but basically, what you got to do is that you have to have an open mind when you watch horror films. You know, because some of them, like, they're eye-openers. Like, you'll be impressed. Like, it impressed me. But, you know, take it with a grain of salt. And also, too, you know, if you get interested in one, you watch it, you got to remember, you got to watch it, like, at least a few times, you know, before you can understand it. At least with me, I had to watch it, like, 2 or 3 times. You know, one time to read it, second time to watch it, and the third time to, like, process it, you know. Some films, you know. But, yeah. So, I mean, I hope this helps you out with, like, if you're interested in foreign horror films, or if you've ever been curious. Like, they're really good, you know. It's some are, but, you know, don't let me be your critic, you know. Don't let me be your critic, because everybody has their own taste, you know. I like a lot of blood and gore. You may like more spiritual, more like building up, you know, more suspense, you know. So it's not a knock on anybody, first and foremost, okay? But I hope this helps you out, you know. And then, like I said, with my list, I'll go over my list real quick of which movies that I thought were my top. So real quick, I had Suspiria, Demons, Zombie 2, The Grudge, Martyrs, Record. I didn't talk about that one, but check that one out. They remade that one actually into Quarantine. So if you've seen Quarantine, you kind of seen Wreck already, or Record. Suburban Film, Human Centipede, Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, High Tension, Babadook, Itchy the Killer, and then I Saw the Devil, you know. In no particular order, but if you ever get a chance to see any of those films, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Get back at me. I'm really curious to see what you guys like. And I appreciate all the comments, good and bad. You know, because I like to get a taste of everything. I really do. But anyways, thanks for joining me for episode 8. Tune in next time for episode 9. I try not to disappoint, but episode 9 is going to be a pretty good one. So let me know what y'all think on this episode. But anyways, I'll catch y'all later. I'm the SaWGuy as always, and I'm out.
Bow down to the